Hello students, welcome back to the third lecture of our chapter Force and Pressure. So far we have learned a lot about force and pressure, and in this lecture we are going to learn new principles and interesting factors. Before moving into the chapter, let us recollect what we have learned in our previous lecture. The first thing we learned is about pressure. So what is pressure? Pressure is the force exerted perpendicularly on a unit area, and the formula to calculate pressure is equal to force upon area on which the force is applied. The unit of pressure is Newton per meter square. Then we have learned about pressure of solids. So when a weight is kept on a solid, pressure is exerted on it. So this depends on the value of the weight and the contact area between the two. Then we have learned about pressure of liquids. At any one level, the liquid pressure is same. Also, the pressure increases as the depth of the liquid increases. We have learned about gaseous pressure also. We also learned that anything that flows is called a fluid. Let it be a liquid or a gas. They have a common name, fluid. When a fluid is there in a container, it exerts pressure from within on the walls and also at the bottom of the container. If a fluid is enclosed in a container, it exerts its pressure equally in all directions at a point within the fluid. All this we have learned. Then we have learned about atmospheric pressure. Atmosphere is a layer of air surrounding the earth. It extends up to 16 kilometers above the surface of the earth. All we have learned. So we also learned we are constantly bearing the atmospheric pressure on our head, and due to the cavities in our body which is filled with air and arteries and veins with blood, so these pressure and the atmospheric pressure are balanced. Hence, we are not feeling that weight on our head. All these we have learned in our previous lecture. Let us begin our today's lecture with an activity. For that, you need an empty plastic bottle or a plastic ball. So you take a plastic bottle, empty it and fix the lid tightly. Now you have to place it in a bucket of water and see what happens. It naturally floats on the water. Try to push it into the water. What happens? Even when pushed, it will continue to float. It will just raise above and it will continue floating. You can see the picture, the bottle is floating. You can try the same with the rubber ball also. So this is what happens. So you can try it with a plastic hollow. It should not be a solid, a hollow ball. You can see in the picture, even after trying to drown it inside the liquid, inside the water, the ball is jumping out of the water. We will try something else. Now fill the bottle with water to the fullest capacity and close the lid. Now release it in the water. You will see the bottle floating inside the water. So like this, the bottle will not be floating above the water, neither it will sink, but it will be floating inside the water. Why does this happen? An empty plastic bottle floats on the surface of the water. But on the contrary, when a bottle which is full of water, it is floating inside the water and it is not going to the bottom. We all know the law of gravity. Yes, it means that any object is getting pushed towards the surface of the ground, isn't it? But imagine a water bottle which is heavier, and we know that gravity is acting on the bottle, but it is not sinking to the bottom, but it is there staying in the middle. Why does this happen? If you take an empty bottle, the weight is negligible as compared to the weight of the water inside. Such a bottle with water neither floats nor it go to the bottom. We are going to see why. So this means that the force due to gravity, which is acting downwards, must have been balanced by an opposing force. There must be a force acting opposite to gravity in the upward direction. We know that gravity acts in the downward direction. So this opposing force must be acting in the upward direction on the bottle. This is why the bottle is not getting to the bottom of the bucket. So from where does this force come from? We are not applying. It is going on its own. So this force must have originated from the water. So it must have come from the water surrounding the bottle. You can see this experiment where one can is full and the other can is empty. An empty bottle reaches the top of the surface of the water where the can is suspended. You can see it is just touching. This is due to difference in weight and difference in the opposite forces. So this upward force acting on the object in water or any other fluid or even gas is called a buoyant force. This is a new type of force that you are going to learn today. Let us learn more about this buoyant force. Buoyancy is an upward force exerted by a fluid that opposes the weight of a partially or fully immersed object. The buoyant force comes from the pressure exerted on the object by the fluid. So here in this case it is water. We know that the pressure increases as the depth increases. So the pressure on the bottom of the object is always larger than the force on the top. Hence, the net upward force. Buoyant force is present whether the object floats or sinks. Let us have a look at a ship floating in the sea. The ships can float even though the material they are made of is denser than water. Buoyancy is the force that supports this. When a ship is floating in still water, the pressure of water on the boat below the water line, that is the line that is there that we can see where the ship is above the water, that and part of the ship is below the water, the line that separates that is called a water line. In the pressure of the water on the boat below the water line, it is pushed upward and this creates a buoyant force. This buoyant force is higher than the gravity that is pushing the ship downwards. Hence, the ship is able to float in the water. Children, do you know how is it decided that an object left in a liquid will sink or float on the surface or float inside the liquid? When the buoyant force is larger than the weight or the gravity, then the object floats on the liquid. If the buoyant force is smaller than gravity, then the object is going to sink to the bottom. If the object is floating in the middle, it means that the buoyant force is equal to the gravity acting on the object. So do you remember we have learned about balanced and unbalanced force in the beginning of the chapter? Which forces are unbalanced in the above cases? You see this case. In this case, one force is larger, so this is an unbalanced force. Here also one is smaller and one force is larger, hence this is also an unbalanced force. But in this case, the third case, the buoyant force and the gravity are equal, so this is a balanced force. There is something more about this buoyant force. Imagine you are pulling a bucket from a well. If the bucket is full of water and it is still inside the water, it appears to be weightless. But What happens when it comes out of the water? Suddenly the bucket becomes heavier. Why? Because when the bucket is inside the water, we know that our friend buoyant force is there to push the bucket upwards. So we feel the bucket to be weightless. Now take a piece of thin aluminium sheet and you dip it in water. What will happen? You will see the aluminium piece sinking into the bottom of the bucket. Now this same aluminium piece, sheet, or even aluminium foil, you make it into a small boat and now place it on the surface of the water. Will it float? Yes, definitely it will float because of the same buoyant force. So when the aluminium, which is here in a ball shape or in the shape of a sheet, it just gets immersed in the liquid, but the same when it is shaped into the shape of a boat or something, it floats on the water. The reason is same, because of the buoyant force. One more point we will see in buoyant force. So when we are swimming in sea, it is easy to swim than in a fresh water. If somebody is swimming in the sea, it is easier than swimming in a pool water or a fresh water. The same, why? The sea water has salt in it because the density of sea water is higher than the density of the fresh water. Also, you can see in the picture that the grapes sinks in a glass of water, but the same is floating when you put it in salt water. You can see grapes sink in fresh water and the same it floats in salt water. So from this what we can understand? We can understand that buoyant force depends on two major factors, that is the volume. You know what is meant by volume. Volume is the space occupied by an object. So buoyant force depends on volume of the object and also density of the liquid. So how these two influence buoyant force, we will see. That's a huge iceberg you are seeing floating in the sea water. The reason for this is also buoyant force. So as we have seen in the previous slide, buoyant force depends on volume of the object. So volume is the space occupied by any object. If the volume of the object is more, the buoyant force is more. This is the reason why an aluminium piece sinks in the water, but the same that is shaped in a boat shape is floating in the water. You can see the ship, the volume occupied by the ship is huge. You can clearly see the waterline here, what I was mentioning before. So the volume occupied by the ship is more. So the buoyant force is more. One more factor we saw is density. If the density of the liquid is more, then also buoyancy is more. So now you can imagine seawater which is denser. So that supports buoyancy, that supports buoyant force. That is, it will have high buoyant force. You can see a carp floating in a fresh water and salt water. You can see the extent with which the same carp sink. You can see only half of the carp is visible above the water, but the same in salt water you can see almost the whole part. It is just the tip is just touching down. Otherwise you can see the whole carp. So from this we understand that buoyant force depends on volume of the object and also density of the liquid. We will see one more activity. Take a long rubber band and cut it at one point. At one of its end, tie a clean washed stone or a measured weight. Let it be 10 gram, 20 gram, 50 gram, anything. Now hold the other end of the rubber band and you make a marking where you are holding. So now keep the stone hanging in the air. You measure the length of the rubber band from the mark to the stone. You can see, so this is hanging, the stone is hanging and the marking is here. You measure this length. Now pour water inside this vessel. You can see the stone hanging inside a vessel and you pour water till the stone is sink. Again measure the length from the marking. Our marking is here and now measure the length from the marking to the hanging stone. What do you observe? We observe that this length is shorter than the earlier length, this length. So why it is done? So what is the reason for the shorter length of the rubber band? So we know the reason why it is there. When water is poured inside, the stone starts experiencing the buoyant force of the water poured. So the buoyant force starts acting in the upward direction. It always opposes the direction of gravity. So the buoyant force acts in the upward direction. The weight on the stone, we know that it acts downwards and the buoyant force acts upward. So this is why we see the weight or the stretched rubber band reduced in size. Now you will be having so much question. So how much is the magnitude, is the amount of buoyant force? Will it be same for all the liquid, or is the buoyant force is of equal magnitude for all the objects? So there are so many questions in our mind. So to clear that, we are going to learn a new principle. Let us learn. The answer for all our questions are given by a principle, famous principle called Archimedes principle. What does it say? When an object is partially or fully immersed in a fluid, a force of buoyancy acts on it in the upward direction. And this force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. When an object gets immersed in a liquid, it displaces some of the liquid. So the force, buoyant force, is equal to the weight of the displaced fluid. For example, you can see a 10 kilogram weight here. So it is measured at 10 and now immerse the 10 kilogram inside the water. You can see the difference in level of water. After getting immersed in the water, the 10 kg weight is measuring only 6. So inside the water, the 10 kilogram will be experienced only as 6 kilogram underwater. So what happens to the other 4 kilogram? The 4 kilogram of water is displaced or pushed away by this weight. So this buoyant force is equal to this 4 kg of the water displaced. Using this, we can understand how much can be the buoyant force experienced by different objects in different types of liquids with different densities. The principle was given by the famous scientist Archimedes. He was a Greek scientist and a mathematician with sharp intelligence. He found out the value of pi. We all of you know the value of pi. So he is the one who found out the value of pi by numerical calculations. His knowledge of levers, pulleys, wheels are very much useful to the Greek army to fight against the Roman army. He became very famous due to his work in geometry and mechanics. So when he entered a bathtub for taking bath, he discovered the Archimedes principle, that is the displacement of liquid by an immersing object. And when he discovered it, he came out as such shouting Eureka, Eureka, which means that I found it, I found it. This was a very famous incident in the history of science. We learned a principle and we should know where we are applying the Archimedes principle. It is very helpful in designing ships and submarines. And also many instruments like lactometer, hygrometer, they are based on this principle. So now you are seeing the picture of a lactometer. A lactometer is the one that helps to find the purity of milk. Depending on how far the lactometer is immersed in milk, it gives you whether the milk is thicker or thinner. So that gives you the quality of the milk. Same way, hydrometer also, depending on the density of water, you can say whether it is highly dense or less dense. So these two are the instruments that works based on Archimedes principle. And also you can measure the volume of any irregularly shaped object. So when you are trying to measure the volume of a regular object, it is very easy. We have a lot of formula. But to calculate the volume of an irregular object, this Archimedes principle is very much helpful. We are now going to learn about density of a substance. So what is density? It is a way of describing how tightly a substance is packed. You can see gas, liquid and solid and how close the atoms or molecules are packed in a given volume. So when there is more mass in a given volume, you say it is more dense. And if it is less mass, it is called less dense. So more dense atom, they have lot of mass in a small space. You can see when an object less dense that floats on a water, for example wood, and a stone which is more dense than water, it sinks. So it is all related with floating or sinking. How to calculate the density of a substance? So density is calculated using the formula mass upon volume. So we know that the SI unit of mass is kilogram and volume is meter cube. From this we can derive the unit of density, which is kilogram per meter cube. There is one more concept called relative density. The word relative means that we are going to compare something. So relative density, it is a ratio of density of a material to a reference material. We will be having one material as a reference and we are going to compare these two and find the density of the given material. So a density of a material here is understood by comparing it with other material. So the reference material normally used for solids and liquid is water. And if the density of gas is taken, then the reference material is air. Now, how to calculate a relative density? The formula to calculate relative density is equal to density of the substance on density of the water. This is applicable only when the substance is liquid or solid. So as this is a comparison or a ratio of two equal quantities, so both are densities, it has no unit. So the relative density is also called as specific gravity. So that's all about the chapter. Let us see some solved examples using the formulas. The problem is the area of the bottom of a tiffin box is given as 0.25 meters square and it weighs 50 newtons. We have to calculate the pressure exerted by the box on the shelf where it is kept. So what are all given? The given points are area is given, weight of the box is given and we are going to find pressure. So the solution is, we know the formula. The formula to calculate pressure is force upon area. So force, we know that it is 50 newtons and the area is 0.25 meters square. Applying it, we will get the pressure as 200 Newton per meter square. It is a simple calculation. Let us have a small summary of what we have learned so far in this chapter. First, we have learned about buoyant force. A buoyant force is a force that acts in the upward direction inside any fluid. Then we have also learned about Archimedes' principle, which states that when an object is partially or fully immersed in a fluid, a force of buoyancy acts on it in the upward direction, and this force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. We also learned about density. Density is mass in a given volume. And we have also learned about relative density, where we are going to compare density of the substance with a reference material. That is a homework for you children. Using the same formula what we have seen for the solved example, you are going to complete this given table. Thank you.